Two. Hello. Check. Check 2. Check 2. Marty, you scared me because, like, I don't know. I don't even know if this shit is working. I was having some internet problems again this morning. I noticed my upload speed was super low again. And then, honestly, I started the stream and like 5 minutes went by and there was no chatters. There was like 5 whole minutes of just like, I was like, where's the chat? Where's everybody? What's going on? I was kind of scared. I didn't know what was happening. I thought you had left me. I thought you had abandoned me. I don't know what's going on here. Now it seems to be like pretty decent timing. It seems to be pretty decent, like almost real time. Hey Lana, what's up? Lana, what do you think of my shirt? We got Johnny there as well. It's very you. Thank you, Lana. Johnny, are we talking tonight? I do have a podcast this evening, Johnny, at like 7. I don't know how late you go. I'm going to be free at like 8:39. If you want to still talk to me at 8:39, I'd be happy to. You just have to let me know. I don't know if that's too late. By now, we've established Canadian internet services are stuck in the early 90s. Honestly, like, my internet service is not that bad. The problem is not my ISP, it's my PC. This is the issue. This is the problem that I keep running into. It's been ever since I, like, set it up on this internet. It's just never worked properly. It's always been, like, wonky. For a long time, I just couldn't turn my... Of course, I'm hardlined, yeah. For a long time, I just couldn't turn my computer off because when I turned it off, the internet would just stop working until I fiddled with it for hours and got it to work again. And now it seems to work whether I turn it off and on or off, but it seems to be like it's dodgy. It's dodgy. It's got to be the network card or something. The power supply, there's something going on. I just don't want to fucking deal with it. If we already said 9, Johnny, then good. I just wanted to make sure of that. Looking forward to it. No idea what we're talking about, though. No, the actual speed, like when I go on my phone, when I do a speed test on the internet on my phone, it works well. There's something going on with my PC. It's the network card. It's the fucking power supply. It's something. It's something. I don't know. I do quite like this fit that I've got today. I've got my Avatar shirt and I'm wearing tiny shorts. My little tiny shorts and my Avatar shirt. That's my fit today. It's very hot. It's very hot today in Montreal yet again. I've got some nice ice cold water here. That was a really good conversation with Jeremy Appel yesterday. I have been hoping to upload my conversation with Dimitri Lascaris. I tried to upload it yesterday and I noticed there was this fucking... It got all desynced. The audio got desynced and I couldn't fix it, so I had to like pull that and I'm going to upload that again. There's this lady on Twitter that's really not happy with my interview with Dimitri Lascaris, and she's accusing me of being plugged into this network of red-brown alliances and Duganists or whatever. I don't really know what I'm supposed to do about that. I plugged you into a dubious network that sounds like that. It's like when you sign someone up for like an email list. It's like that kind of a prank. I got you involved in the red-brown Duganist network. I pulled down part 1 and part 2. Do you want to see if I've got it synced? And if not, I can send them your way. Well, my problem is you're also Mormon. Okay, nice. Got those magic underpants. The problem is when I downloaded both of the videos, and when I watched them like from the download, it seems fine. And then when I edit it into one video, it gets all fucked up. Syncing issues. I'll try and fix it tonight. I should be able to. Tell them to piss off. Well, it's like, I don't... She seems like an okay lady. You know, it's like, I don't want to be mean. Christy McFadden. Gardner, wildlife, ecology, cities, politics, too many tweets. Lots of... So she's part of... Lots of links on here on the fascist incursions on the left here in Canada. So that's what she's really... This is her beat. And she's not really like a journalist or anything. She's, I guess, primarily a gardener. Okay. But yeah, she's really plugged. She's really nervous about this like encroachment of these fascist groups to destroy the left. You're a red-brown alliance because you don't want to arm Ukrainian Nazis. It's weird, isn't it? Like, and she's accusing me of all kinds of stuff, saying, look, the callous, the coldness you have about the deaths of Ukrainians. And it's like, I've been wanting to avoid the deaths of Ukrainians this entire time. For like 2 years, I've been advocating that Ukrainians stop dying. I think that's been my main thing that I've been focusing on for over 2 years now. So I'm the one that's like, we shouldn't continue pumping arms into the country because that just equals more dead people. You know, that's what provoked the conflict in the first place. So I don't think we should do that. But and it's all the shit like look into Wagner Group. They're extremists on both sides. Please look into eco-fascist National Bolshevism and Limonov. Also, accelerationists and MAGA communists and crypto-fascism history and current and its relationships with anti-Semitism and suppression of the left between wars. Nobody wants war. Fake peaceniks and LaRouche networks, RFK Jr. But I just keep saying like, I don't think you're actually addressing anything that was actually said in this like interview. And she just keeps going on with this kind of stuff. I don't know. In conclusion, Rob is a land of contrast. I mean, Carrier Wave, listen, like I understand that there's this people that want this red-brown alliance. There are these Duginists and Russian chauvinists and white supremacists using these kinds of talking points. Like, I get that. My main thing, as I've been saying repeatedly, if you're like on the left, you should not support NATO. I think that's just like a basic framework here. Don't support NATO if you're on the left. And definitely don't support NATO sending arms to like one side of a civil war to start a proxy war so they destabilize an enemy, which is something that's happened over and over and over again. And I'm just against that. That's just my main thing. I'm against doing that, regardless of who it is. Whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Syria, whether it's Libya, I don't support this process. That's all. So we can look at all these, we can get out our like red string and tie together all these vast Duginist influence networks and red-brown alliance thing. My main position is not going to change though. My main position is not going to change. We shouldn't be supporting NATO funding one side of a proxy war. No matter where it is. I'm just against that. So I guess that's really hard for some people to wrap their minds around. I don't think it's that complicated, you know? I don't think it's really that complicated or difficult to come to like an analysis of this. NATO or peacekeepers, the anti-fascist NATO alliance. That's right. And this like I don't want to like I'm not calling up these tweets. I don't want to single this person out. I don't think she's like a bad person. This person that's like yelling at me about my interview with Dmitry Lascaris. That's why I don't want to call this up. But a lot of that, though, isn't it? A lot of that is just like all this obsession with Duginists and the Wreckers and the Red-Brown Alliance and all these different networks that these people are obsessing over. All that really is, like, you're still supporting NATO, though. You know? You're supporting NATO. You're supporting an endless proxy war in which many Ukrainian people are dying, which we're supposed to care about. So ultimately, you can point out all these right-wing, Russian chauvinist influence networks or whatever. It doesn't change the fundamental reality, though, that like when you're taking that position, you're supporting NATO, you're supporting arms transfers to these Ukrainian militias, you're supporting the endless, like, a continuation of this conflict. You know? Yeah, I think that's kind of my position too, Larry. You know, a lot about Russia and Putin himself I find grotesque. It's the thing that has guided me in this conflict and really all other of these foreign policy discussions is that quote from Kwame Ture. I posted this 2 days before this invasion started. You know, it was somewhat controversial then. It has been my guiding principle throughout this whole thing, and it's going to continue to be my guiding principle through as we continue these geopolitical discussions, right? If I'm the Imam of Mecca, and wait, now I forget the quote. If I'm the Imam of Mecca and American imperialism is fighting the devil, I'm on the side of the devil. That's been my guiding principle. And I know that trips people up. I don't want to support Putin. I don't want to do all this. It's so distasteful, but that's the reality. You know? Western imperialism, that's the bad guy. We're the bad guy. We're the evil empire. I'm against that. End of. Point blank, period. The lesser evil is, in fact, less evil. That's true. I'd be interested in seeing that Stalin quote, Larry. It is unfortunate that the peace position is being conflated with a pro-Putin position. Well, exactly, and people have deluded themselves into this idea that the peace position means Russia is defeated. They're defeated. They're kicked out of Crimea. They're kicked out of eastern Ukraine. And Putin goes on trial for war crimes. That's, I think, what the people have told themselves. That's what the peaceful position is, which is, in fact, quite the opposite of peaceful. You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Happy birthday week, K3 Lehigh.
Cinnamon Challenge. Thank you so much. 30 months of tier 3 from our friend Cinnamon Challenge. I really appreciate all the support, and I'm very happy to have you in this community. I really, really am. Thank you. Big birthday week for the big boy. It's my birthday on Saturday. It is my birthday on Saturday, June 3rd. I'm turning 40 years old. I'm turning 40 years old on this Saturday. Tim Pool is on one about that Tom Morello post. Is that... What post was that? I don't know if I saw that. Is there a 3-year badge? When people come closer to 3 years, I'll create the 3-year badge. People think of it as an inter-imperialist conflict. Unfortunately, it muddies the waters a bit. It does muddy the waters, and that's why I've always made this point, Larry, whenever this comes up, that like there is no comparison. There is no comparison to American imperialism. There's no one that comes close to rivaling them in any way as a global imperialist power. So when you say like, oh, it's all they're imperialist, Russia's imperialist, China's imperialist, That's just an excuse to say, like, well, I'm just going to hang back and have sit here and stew in my smug sense of superiority. You know, that's what that means. It's the same thing when people accuse the Soviet Union of being imperialist, because they were like trying to like bring nations into their camp and build global socialism and defeat imperialism. And people say, well, that's just imperialist. But it's not, though. It isn't, though. It is not. Dakadoon, I can't even see that because Timcast blocked me. I'm blocked by free speech enthusiast Tim Pool. I think accusing the USSR was arguably much worse. Oh, of course, it's definitely worse. Because they were genuinely trying to build socialism, which Russia is not doing right now, you know? Well, and people act like there's this third way. I mean, look what happened to the non-aligned movement. You know? The idea that the Soviet Union should have just left. No. We're just going to leave all these places. We wouldn't want to do imperialism, so we're just going to, like, not try to, like, even countries that they fought a war against, you know, during World War II, fought fascism in these places. But no, we're not going to move in after and, like, try to bring them into the USSR because that would be too imperialist. But it's like, there's no just situation where you just leave these places alone and they just get left alone and they have autonomy and no one bothers them. It's if they join the socialist camp or they get pulled into the Western camp, as we've seen with the expansion of NATO for the last 30 years. There's not this magical in-between place where you just leave them alone and they just develop it purely on their own with no influence of anyone. Making a friendship triangle equals imperialist. That is, actually. That is imperialist. It's like if the Na'vi defeated the Sky People on Pandora and then, like, took away their spaceships and then came to Earth in the spaceships and started, like, trying to destroy the Sky People threat right where it lives, that wouldn't be Na'vi imperialism, you know? And you know what? If it was, I would support it. Exactly. Ask Allende about the third way. That's right. Well, and that's what I mean. Yeah, the non-aligned movement also got destroyed by catastrophic massacres. I mean, it was never an option. No country is permitted independence, so I think supporting the breath of fresh air that empowers the workers is in fact the lesser evil. And I would agree with that. I would agree with that. People under 30 should legally be infants. Totally agree. Totally agree. We don't need to listen to the opinions of people. No offense to anyone that's maybe a Zoomer or in their 20s in the chat. But really, if you're... I'll give you 27, you know? I think after 27, I might start to pay a little bit of attention to your opinion. Beyond that, though, no. You're basically a toddler. Thank you, Carrier Wave. As you folks know, I have been trying to just, like, normalize it over the last year. Just saying, I'm going to be 40 years old. Middle-aged man. I take it on a per-case basis. That's a good way of looking at it. Rob, I've been testing the waters for you, so to say, and I made a new Twitch account and channel where I promote NATO membership and say Slava Ukraini on the clock every 10 minutes and post she is Winnie the Pooh memes, and in 1 week I'm on 120,000 viewers and 15,000 subs. You know, if it was that easy, maybe I would think about it. You know, maybe I would consider it. I would consider just selling out everything I believe in. I like being 40. Honestly, I like being 42. It's just my fucking body's falling apart. That's what I don't like. You know? If I could take my beautiful Adonis, like, 19-year-old body and just take my fucking head off and stick it onto that, that'd be wonderful. That'd be fantastic. You know? It's the decaying meat prison is the part that I don't like. You need a blood boy. I know, it's true, yeah. It's true. Dad bod caucus. I don't even hate my dad bod, you know? It's like I'm definitely overweight. I don't hate it. You know what? I look in the mirror with my shirt off and it's like, yeah, I'm a big boy. I'm a big boy, but there's nothing wrong with that. Honestly. It's more just like the pain issues and some of the sleeping issues. This is where I have a problem. Keep up the maintenance and do something physical that is fun. I have been walking a lot. I've been walking quite a lot. Probably like at least between 6 to 10K per day, probably. Which has been already improving, has already been helping a lot, just that, in terms of my physical and mental health. How tall are you? I'm like just under 6 foot, I guess. How much you bench? That I don't know. I haven't tried benching anything in quite a long time. And I tried to do a pull-up last year and it was fucking not good. Yoga does wonders. People keep telling me to do that too. That's something I need to do as well. Maybe I should do it. Maybe I should do yoga. What's a K? It's a kilometer. Maybe I'll start to do that. I think for a while there was some kind of like a workout club or yoga club in the Discord. Is that still going on? Or do I just not look at that? Right now it's just so hot. It's just boiling. It's like really painful to be outside even right now. It's so fucking hot. Let's see if I can make myself just a little brighter here. It's all right. Gotta get on the squats. Honestly, my legs are not an issue. I feel like my legs are probably one of my best features. That's not a problem. I feel like below the waist, I'm all right. Below the waist, I'm doing fine. It's like 34 on the East Coast. Larry, you're near any of those fires as well? They've been mad, crazy wildfires going on there as well. I'm not sure where on the East Coast you are. Oh boy. Hope you're staying safe, Larry. Anyway, I should take my physical fit. I should and am taking my physical fitness more seriously. I don't want to say I've been doing nothing. Like I said, I have been walking a lot. So I need to do more, yes, but no, I will get there. I will get there. It goes to my gut. I know the feeling there. I know the feeling. See, check these out though. See? See? I'm doing okay in that respect. I'm doing okay with that. Hello, Husker. I'm just showing off my legs. That's all. I'm just showing off my legs. I was mentioning I'm turning 40 in 2 days from now. Talking a little bit about my decaying meat prison is one of the things we do talk about sometimes. Our decaying meat prisons. The legs are all right. Like I said, below the waist, I'm all right. Below the waist, I'm doing fine. You don't have any interesting lunch going on? I had a really good lunch. I've developed like this like go-to lunch. I'm so like in this neighborhood where I'm at. I mean, I love Korean food so much, and I'm in like the Montreal equivalent of Koreatown, and some amazing restaurants. And there's a fucking amazing Korean grocery store I was mentioning the other day. At first, because when just passing by, I thought it was Japanese, but it's a Korean grocery. And they have all the noodles, all the different kinds of ramen, all the different ingredients that you need for like really good stuff. And they have some fresh food too, and you can get fresh kimbap there. They do these like kimbap rolls. And you can go get it. It's $5. It's $5 for one of these rolls. And you eat it with some QP mayo and chili crisp, and it's like one of the best things I've ever had. Like, it's just fucking phenomenal. And it comes in, and there's this little noodle salad you can get as well with mushrooms and some other good stuff in there. It's really good. I had some like prior to the stream. I did. It is cheaper than McDonald's, which I had yesterday. And you know what? I also love McDonald's, but this is probably better for you and also tastes better. Weird, Rob, your pre-roll was just a 10-second mayo ad. I think the algo has you pegged 2 times mayo talk combo. You get the mayo ad, and then you come in, I'm talking mayo even more. So I ate some of that. I didn't eat the whole thing, but I'm going to have some more of that in a little bit, because it's really good. And it's like such a cool little grocery store. There's so much good shit in there. I got some Spam the other day. I'm going to start making some Spam. Spam and noodles and rice and vegetables and that stuff. Oh, that sounds good, Lana. Pork stock with mushrooms I foraged. That sounds really good. We're getting Spam pilled over here. We're getting Spam pilled. So I don't know what else is there. What else is there to get into? I don't really have any plans for what to do today. I did some serious journalism yesterday talking about the Alberta elections with Jeremy, which was, again, a really good conversation. Always really enjoyed talking to Jeremy Appel. That was really good today. No plan. I got no plan whatsoever. Did you see the anonymous tweet to China? Oh, fuck, no, I didn't. Do I want to? That sounds really cringe. And I guess, can we just like openly acknowledge that anonymous, no matter how it started out as, is like a State Department thing now? Or like the NSA or the CIA or whoever the fuck. It's somebody has their fingers deep into that thing. Probably always was. Yeah, they just seem to only target these CIA target countries. That's right. What do you have to say to the charges that you're an all right guy? I plead the fifth. I plead the fifth on that. If I answer my status as an all right guy, may be confirmed. Yeah, I saw that, Old Dutch. I will do that. It seemed really interesting. Both the Korean War documentary, and I saw that there's like a big talk going on at the People's Forum that seems really interesting. Feds always had their hands deeply into the Chan board culture. Worth remembering, Feds are the largest holder of crypto after seizing Silk Road, so they have a lot at stake. Interesting. That is interesting. Yeah, like this is this like an official? Let me see this, Larry. Hello, China. We are back. Yeah, I imagine President Xi at night is just lying awake, trembling in fear at these like fucking nerds. What are you gonna do? You're gonna DDoS us? You're gonna DDoS one of our websites? All right. Okay, sure. You know, like, it's the same thing now. All these dipshit Canadian conservatives are just like, China, the reason I lost was China. Aaron O'Toole is saying that now. China's just so concerned. They're so terrified of the Canadian Conservative Party that they're like getting no, we must stop this Aaron O'Toole. No. So he's all our plans will be ruined by the Canadian Conservative Party. Pierre Poilievre, our greatest enemy. Our greatest geopolitical enemy. They're just terrified of this man, this fucking dweeb. You know? I don't think about you at all. Yeah, exactly. That's what Aaron O'Toole's saying now. Aaron O'Toole. Now they're all saying that. Aaron O'Toole is, and CSIS once again in the center of it. Aaron O'Toole is speaking about his CSIS briefing regarding PRC alleged intelligence attacks on him. He says in relation to his actions as leader of the opposition. This comes in the middle of the debate on removing Johnson as the special reporter on PRC interference. What a fucking joke. What a joke of a country this is. Aaron O'Toole. China was just so threatened by this guy. This is who China, President Xi would just be awake thinking of this guy being like, oh no, we must stop this man. We must stop this man from becoming Prime Minister of Canada. All our plans will be ruined. Pierre, the run-of-the-mill anti-establishment rebel guy who in reality a born and bred establishment guy since leaving high school. The guy terrifies Mr. Xi. The fact that there's a constituency around that actually buys this bullshit from Poilievre. I was some anti-establishment. Yeah, the lifelong career politician, part of the conservative movement since high school. How much of a fucking nerd do you have to be to have that as your background? Yeah, you're really going to upset the establishment. You're really going against the grain. The fact that people believe this is just so sad. This is the man who just terrifies terrifies China. Again, more people, I'll say this every time this comes up, I'll mention this, more people in the Chinese Communist Party than there are in the country of Canada. Many times over. They're not concerned about Erin O'Toole or Pierre Poilievre or whatever like backbencher liberal is going on. They don't care. They don't think about this. Really concerned about which bougie leader is in charge of Canada. Exactly. Yeah. They're just terrified. I would like to see Poilievre or Erin O'Toole or Justin Trudeau, for that matter, going into people's homes like President Xi does. And the first thing he always does is go over to the kitchen and be like, "What are you cooking in here? What's going on?" There's so many pictures of President Xi like looking at like woks and pots and stuff in people's homes. It's so funny. That's his main thing. He just goes into people's homes. Whoa, shit. What am I doing over here? He goes into people's homes and he's like, what you got going on here? What do you got going on under there? He loves checking on the stew. He does. I love that for him. Also checking their beds to make sure they're adequate. I would love for Pierre Poilievre to do that for some of his constituents. Ruthless dictator taking food from hungry families. That's right. He's like, give me some. I'm coming for my quota. This is a tax. This is the president tax. Did you see that story about that building in Davenport, Iowa, where they wanted to demolish a building with people still trapped inside it? Yeah, and there's like cops lining up to like protect the building from people wanting to like look for people that are trapped in there. Fucking disturbing. What was the Canadian politician that was talking with a family at home but had a teleprompter? That was Andrew Scheer. We've just cycled. The Conservative Party in Canada has just cycled through a bunch of just like completely interchangeable, bland, fucking like cold oatmeal, fucking boring losers. They just keep cycling these people in. It's Andrew Scheer and then Erin O'Toole and then Pierre Poilievre, just these nobodies. No charisma, no fucking capability of like speaking to anyone like normal human beings. Their glasses of water, their empty suits, whatever you want to call them. We don't have any larger than life figures like Trump's. We got these incel dorks. That's right. We don't. And like you'd think that there would be a wide open space for someone in Canada to do that, but we're just so boring as a people that we just can't muster it. Don Cherry could have done it maybe like 10, 15 years ago. I think he's too old now. Because Peterson, but Peterson could never like run an election campaign though. It would be so painful. You know, Peterson, like you have to be charismatic, you know, in order to be a politician, even if you're a reactionary piece of shit. You have to be able to go and like relate to people and seem like an interesting person to like hang out with, which Peterson doesn't have. He has some weird audience of like pseudo-intellectual reactionaries that hang on his every word, but like he couldn't go into someone's home and like have an actual conversation with them. You know, have you ever seen like, it's amazing that, you know, I talk about how it like people buy Poilievre's whole anti-establishment thing. It's amazing that people buy Peterson's like intellectual act, right? Which is just so lazy. You saw there was that thing getting shared around a couple months ago where someone's like asking him some basic question. He's like, what would mean? He's just like, what is about it changes the whole question if you ask the basic. If you just like ask what these words mean, what does it mean to ask a question? And it's like, who listens to this and goes, wow, that's so profound. What do words even mean? It's like, what? You can't just answer a basic question. Like, why is this? This is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. For sure, he's the dumb guy who's just tricked everyone, and who dumb people look at and be like, "Oh, this guy's really got it." Look at him asking these brilliant questions. The same people who listen to the AI-generated Bill Gates Socrates podcast. Fucking imagine listening to AI Bill Gates. Like, I don't even want to listen to regular Bill Gates. Who's out there listening to AI Bill Gates weigh in on things? What the hell? You know? I don't even know if I can find the Peterson clip that I'm talking about. It was so bad. I saw the nightmare of AI Bill Gates as an AI conversation with AI Socrates. It's like, oh my goodness. What are we doing here? What are we doing? Yeah, it's this. Who is this for? This is my question. Like, this guy talks about religion. You know, number one, he criticizes like gay and trans people and drag performers as being like groomers and abusers, while being a fucking intellectual religious person. And then someone asks him a basic question about religion, and this is what he says. Who is impressed by this? Seriously.
There's a couple of mysteries in that question. What do you mean to me? What do you believe in God? And I think, okay, there's
good. Thank you.
Good.
That's really great. Thanks. Jesus Christ.
Begs the question, what do you mean by happen? Because when you are dealing with fundamental realities and you pose a question, you have to understand that the reality of the concepts of your question, when you're digging that deep, are just as questionable as what you're questioning. You know, so people say to me, do you believe in God? And I think, okay, there's a couple of mysteries in that question. What do you mean do? What do you mean you? What do you mean believe? And what do you mean God? That happened.
like really? Like, come on. Seriously, this is the intellectual titan. This is the intellectual titan of the right. I'm literally, I would love to speak to someone that watches that clip and be like, whoa, that's so profound. That's so profound. Like, sir, I noticed, like, I pulled you over because you have an open container of alcohol and you were driving 80 kilometers per hour in this school zone. Well, what do you mean by open container? What do you mean by 80 kilometers per hour? What do you mean by kilometer? What do you mean by school zone? What do you mean by zone? You know, it's like, what do you mean by laws? I wasn't driving. I was just putting my foot on the gas and the car was moving. If speed is a function of distance over time, how do we define time? I can't even do the voice, the Kermit voice. I would really love to... What do you mean by cross? What do you mean by walk? I would genuinely love to speak to someone that saw that and was impressed by that. I want to understand the kind of mind of the person that looks up to this person as this intellectual hero. You know? It's honestly fucking staggering. And he's always going off about Marxism. Well, clearly, you know... And on one hand, I empathize with it because I understand what it's like to like try to opine on something that you have no idea about. Usually I try to avoid that, but like now anyways, like when you're in school though, You don't do the work, and then someone asks you a basic question, and you have to find a way to talk about it without giving away the fact that you know nothing about what you're saying. And that's what he's doing fucking 95% of the time. If he was ripping off cones, it would make more sense. If some of these things, if he was saying it and there was like a blacklight alien poster behind him, with like the alien head with like the big doobie or something. Maybe, and he had dreads and he was all dirty. And he was in those like hemp clothes. Maybe that would make more sense. He looked like Chet Hanks. Yeah. First time I saw him, he was talking about gulags and trying to force himself to cry. I mean, it's amazing being obsessing over like Soviet gulags while living on a mass fucking gravesite of indigenous genocide and like the whole legacy of like the country that you live in, that you support still. And he's a big supporter of America, paying no attention to the vast sprawling prison network in the United States of America currently right now. That just gives I think if you obsess over these kind of like Soviet gulags and these kinds of things while totally ignoring the much worse, much more horrifying system that we're currently living in today, right now, it kind of gives the game away a little bit, doesn't it? But he is racist, and that is true. That is true. And then the alien said, take me to your dealer. Now I just sound like Kermit. I can't do the actual voice. He denies the mass grave thing, I'm pretty sure. Of course he does. Of course he does. It's just fucking... These are our enemies, and they're in power. This man has so much fucking influence. Our enemies are just fucking airheaded bimbos. And we're losing. That's the sad part. That's the really sad part. God. It's like if you just support capital, if you support like the current status quo, you can just, it doesn't matter how stupid you are. You can just fall ass backwards into a fucking great career. My boss is a JP guy and he genuinely believes Trudeau is Castro's son, unlike me who believes it ironically. Jay, I always believed it ironically too, but the other day, I think it was Johnny in the chat who shared a video that convinced me. It convinced me. I now 100% do believe that he is Castro's son. I unironically believe that now. It was for sure kind of tongue in cheek. I can't remember if it was you or not, Johnny, but someone shared the video of the Castro Trudeau video. That was it's like a music thing with all these like historical clips, and I was just like, okay, I'm sold. I'm convinced now. I don't think it's me, but I support this accusation. Well, I can't remember who it was. I cannot remember who it was, but it was somebody. What do you mean by do? What do you mean by you? What do you mean by believe? What do you mean by God? Like, fuck. Oh my God. One of the dumbest people. Like, really just one of the dumbest people. Oh, I think that was you. I think that was you, Matt. I think I get you confused sometimes because your names have similar lengths. It would also be on the trend of the children of famous Marxists, etc., becoming sociopathic neoliberal monsters. For sure, it's like the Pete Buttigieg and Kamala. Trudeau fits nicely into that dynamic. Did he get defrocked as a psychologist? I don't know. I'm not sure. I think he complained about being canceled without anything actually having happened. But I didn't look into it too much. I have my problems with that academia. It's still a joke even by those standards. Well, I have problems with academia too, but there are still very brilliant people working in academia, even people that I don't agree with, who I at least recognize are like intelligent people. This man has nothing, though. He's got nothing going on. And again, he doesn't even have like a charisma. You know what I mean? It's normally, even if someone's stupid or they're this kind of engaging in this kind of reactionary rhetoric, you can at least understand why it's appealing to people. Like Trump. You know, Trump's a detestable person, but you understand why people like Trump. It's very obvious why people like him. Peterson, it's just like, I don't know. I guess like we were saying, it just like allows people to think that they're like engaging in some kind of intellectual exercise. If this guy is so profound that you can barely even like unpack the things he's saying, it allows these people to believe that they're being guided by some kind of like brilliance because they can't personally make sense of it. He's got that Canadian charisma. Ugh. They politely asked him not to scream about plus-sized women while vomiting. No. I refuse. I must continue making a total embarrassment of myself every single day. A professional acquaintance of mine is his literal next-door neighbor and has been to his house, and apparently it's filled floor to ceiling with Soviet propaganda, but not in a cool way, in an unhinged, fixated hoarder way. No, I've heard him talk about that. It's so weird. It's a deal breaker when someone says they like JP. I think if you like know someone in your life that says that says like, oh yeah, I've been listening to this Jordan Peterson guy. Some of it, what he says, makes a lot of sense. There's only one response. There's only one response.
I love you, but you are not. I love you, but you are not. Serious people. I
Cousin Greg explained. Thank you for that. I wouldn't have understand this very complex character without that YouTube video explaining it for me. Me to the pro-NATO progressives in my life. Seriously. Man, I'm still thinking about that Succession finale. I've not stopped thinking about it.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Almost a year on the Rob sauce.
Ainsley, thank you so much. 11 months of tier 1. Thank you so much for that. Almost one entire year. We love it. Thank you very much. Do I need to watch the show? Absolutely. It's just fantastic. It's just fucking fantastic. It's really one of the best series that has ever been made. The show is Succession. And I think that's pretty, I think that's like a pretty reductive way of putting it, Green Key. A show where people finally empathize with rich people. I think, again, like I've been pointing out, I think part of what I enjoy about Succession is, yeah, it's like the writing and the acting is really, really good. So you create these characters that are very complex and are compelling characters who are monsters. You know, they are monsters, and you can understand that and still enjoy the show while recognizing that these are horrible people and monstrous people. That's what I keep pointing out. Is like a lot of the show is just like bearing witness to them suffering, you know, and there's an enjoyment out of that. And yeah, the writing and the acting is just good enough that I think these characters are complex enough that they're still really enjoying. It's really enjoyable watching them engage in this spiral of abuse and trauma with one another. Not everyone takes that perspective. Well, definitely there are a lot of people that are doing the whole like, oh yeah, no. But I think it's a part of it is ironic. The whole like, oh, Kendall's my guy, Kendall's baby girl, and all this stuff. Like, I think most people, even if they do have been reducing the characters to these kinds of like protagonists, they are aware on a subtle level, and it gets made clear for them throughout the show that like they're not good people. Yeah, you know how Goodfellas and The Godfather, but how cool the Mafia is. That's right. And you still love those characters too, and you love spending time with them. Anyway, I loved it. I've not stopped thinking about the finale, and I just keep seeing clips from it. My TikTok has like just been taken over by Succession stuff. I keep seeing clips from that fucking brutal confrontation with the three siblings in the finale. I'm the eldest boy. I just keep seeing that over and over. I really wish, I'm sorry for keep saying this, but I really wish I didn't have to continually update this manually. Yeah, the usually mashup was very good. That's right. Okay, I'm gonna try something here. I'm gonna try a little something here, folks. If someone's been holding off on a resub or someone that wants to gift a sub, I would appreciate it if someone could sub or gift a sub right now, and I would like to see if the number goes up on its own. If there's anyone that's like been like, oh, I'm gonna hold off on my gift sub or I'm gonna hold off on my resub.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Got 1 day remaining. Okay, look at that. Equilibrium 5651, a brand new community member. Thank you for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate it. And of course, it did not work. It did not work. But Equilibrium, thank you for the tier 1 sub. I really appreciate that. Thank you for joining the community and thank you for supporting the show. And it's just not going up. It's not going up automatically. It's really strange. I got to do it. Do it by hand every time. Yeah, and I guess that's true, Lana. Like you're talking about Don. People thought Don Draper was cool. People think Walter White is cool. I guess maybe it is being generous. There are plenty of people that are watching that are just like, no, these are the protagonists, and I like them, and they're swag and cool. I'm sure there are a number of people that just appreciate it like that. But I think if you are a Marxist or a socialist or whatever, you can still enjoy the show while still trying to like have that kind of Marxist critical analysis of it, which I tried to do. The Succession characters are real and strong, and they're my friends. That's right. They're cool and swag. Ugh.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bleep Lord, thank you very much for the gifted sub. I very much appreciate that, Bleep Lord. Thank you. There must be a way to fix this. It's driving me fucking nuts. I don't know. I don't know what to do. Um. Anyway, regardless of all that talk, I still did really love it, and I'm a little bit sad that there is no more Succession. Even though, as I was talking about, I do think it was a really kind of like it was a good creative decision to just go out while they're at the total top of the zeitgeist. Not enough, I think, series or like creative kind of projects that capture the public imagination that way are willing to take that to leave money on the table, right? Creatively. I do miss it though. Hang on, I'm gonna have the rest of my. Do you think they originally wanted to go longer? I don't know. I think my impression was that they were just kind of like going season by season, and I think made the decision prior to this one to just cut it off. I like happy endings, but also like you couldn't have been expecting a happy ending to Succession at the same time. It's like that was never where that story was going. It's very weird with Breaking Bad because the show could not have done more to telegraph that Walt was not the hero of the story, and yet, well, I mean, it really shows how much a lot of people hate women. Frankly, a lot of it, right? The whole thing about Skylar being like a bitch or whatever, the number one most hated character, because she's trapped in this terrifying, abusive, psychotic relationship, physical danger to herself and family. It's pretty amazing that people can come up that can be the conclusion that people draw from it. Hang on, folks. I'm going to have the rest of my kimbap. One moment. Sorry. Sorry for the dead air. I'm back. That is really something else. That is really something else. Ted Lasso ended too. I never got into that whole phenomenon. Is that worthwhile? Is that worth checking out? I know that's got a big fandom support base, whatever. He's got a mustache. It's true. That is true. Man, that is really good. I'm not like a huge sushi guy, but I'm getting really into this kimbap though. When is Severance coming back? I heard it's running into some kind of creative trouble with the season 2. And fuck, I just realized Rare BG is down now, which is a fucking pretty devastating. All right. Well, I guess I'm wondering if there's something we should like watch. There must be some kind of interesting video. I know Old Dutch was talking about this trailer for a Korean War documentary. Is there a YouTube clip of that? I mean, I just watched Battleship Potemkin scored by the Pet Shop Boys. I can very much enjoy a happy ending. That sounds good. Okay, you trimmed it from the People's Forum bit, I see. But at some point, we're going to just have to watch that whole thing. I would like to just watch that whole People's Forum thing. There's a couple things that I think we could focus on because there's that other video as well with Ken Hammond. There's that Ken Hammond video on Breakthrough News that we can do. There's a couple of things to get into. Man, it's hot. It's like hard to concentrate. It's so hot right now. Man, this lady is still just going off. This lady is still just yelling at me about my talk with Dimitri and now the VJ thing. I'm now being sucked into this big conspiracy web for this lady. Where is that People's Forum thing? I can't remember what channel it is in the Discord. Can I post something in chat? It's a link, but it's the most important election of our lifetime and support for a community member. Yeah, sure.
You
Yeah.
can count on me. You're going to
course.
have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Of course, Marty. Marty! Part Ian, thank you. 21 months of tier 1 from Part Ian. Thank you so much for that. Just looking at this link here. Please pack the ballot box with votes for snacks for this contest from one of my fave vegan restaurants. Chat, you know what to do. You know what to do. Vote for snacks. The link's in the chat. It's part of your civic duty. If you don't vote in this election, then the fascists win. The fascists will win. I keep going back here. I kind of miss this camera angle. Maybe I can start doing this again. I kind of, this angle. Remember this? I used to do this. I do kind of like having the chat over here. It's much more easy to read, though, as well. This is more productive than what Anonymous does, whatever they claim to do. We DDoS'd you. Your website was down for 45 entire seconds. We are Legion. We are Legion. Don't mess with us again, or we'll take down your driver's license renewal page on there. I don't know. I don't know what these folks are up to. Expect us. Hello, Slam Dunkins. What's up? And folks, I'll just keep reminding people. It is my birthday. It is my birthday in 2 days. Not today, but I'm not going to be streaming on my birthday. So it is my birthday in 2 days. I'm turning 40 years old 2 days from now on Saturday. So if that feels like something that if you want to maybe gift a sub, or maybe as a little gift to me, I'm just saying, not only can you support this content and support the work that I do here on Twitch, you can give me a little birthday
We simply
gift
use the computer to mark up
as well.
the size of the account.
Thank you very much, Lana, for the 200 friend coin. That's very sweet of you. Thank you. When do we come over for the party? At 7. Looking forward to seeing you there. Of course, all the cool people in the chat have all been added to the exclusive DM where the party invites go out. So everyone, I'm sure, knows what I'm talking about. My hair started turning gray on my 40th birthday exactly. I don't think I have any gray hairs. I might have a couple. But it's funny because I'm getting gray hairs here. And I can't even grow a beard. I can't even come close to growing a beard. And I'm already having gray coming in my non-beard. How fucked up is that? How fucked up is that? Gray in the beard is cool, but it's cool if you have a beard, though, which I don't. This is the problem. If you actually have a beard, then yeah, it looks cool. You look distinguished. But when you don't have one, then it's kind of messed up. The sub goal is now 40. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe I'll get cheeky with it tomorrow and make a 40 sub goal. Even though it's been finding like viewers and an audience and subs lately has been it's been quite an uphill battle. So maybe that's a little ambitious. Think she would smoke a pipe? Should I be a pipe guy? Okay, I didn't vote for snacks. I'm going to do so right now. Okay, I vote number 11 for snacks. Princess of Poof. The winner's got 49. I know we can do better than that. There's 85 viewers right now. I'm sure we can get at least another couple. At least another couple. We can stop the bleeding here. I still have this like song in my head that I've been working on. I spent like 2 hours last night just like stacking vocal harmonies. I got super like fixated on this last night. And I just kept adding harmonies and more harmonies. And then this morning I was like, oh, I could add some more here. So I did even more. So now there's like a 3-part oohs and ahs harmony, 3-part harmony. There's a 3-part like harmony on the lead vocal, and there's like an additional harmony that's doing some other movement. So there's like 7 voices going on at the same time. I was really kind of running away with it last night with that. Oh. I'm debating whether I should even do like a video or some kind of extensive thing today, or whether we should just like shoot the shit. I really don't know. I really just don't know. It doesn't really feel like a video day, you know? Speaking of, I like that Of Montreal song with all the harmonies. I don't know if I know that. I don't know if I know that one. Weirdly, I never really got into Of Montreal, who weren't even from Montreal. It's an interesting thing. Never really got into them. I'm just like concentrating right now on not being hot. Not hot like physically, because I know I can't help that, but like physically like warm, you know? Stop sweating. Stop sweating. You've got to stop sweating. You should completely disengage with the Christy McFadden person because they seem obsessed and unhinged and they're politically illiterate AF. That's what I've been noticing too. You know what? I didn't want to be mean about it. I didn't want to like call her out or anything like that. But it's like she sent me like a dozen tweets, and she's still going. She's still going. Rub some antiperspirant on your face. That's a good thing to do, I think. I think it's okay to do that. Got the Daily Beast article in there. Yeah, it is kind of about Pootler, Matt. It's because I talked with Dimitri Lascaris the other day, which some of you saw. And apparently there's kind of like this guilt by association thing because he's talked to some people that are part of this like Duganist threat network or whatever, you know? And now she's down this rabbit hole of all the web of influences. It really doesn't take much to make you seem completely unhinged when you start going down that road. Snacks tied for fourth. Okay, there we go. There we go, chat. We're making some moves here. We're making some moves. I'm just going to go put my plate away. Just one sec. Oh. I don't even think this person is like a NAFO person. I think they seem like a sort of like well-meaning type who's been sucked into this kind of like obsession with the left being infiltrated by this red-brown Duganist alliance or whatever it is. Someone told me on a reply to Twitter that I just tweeted the greatest tweet anyone's ever made. And I honestly feel sorry for them. It was so mid. This is now that Marty, because of the patented trickle-down TRRS, the trickle-down clout system, now that Marty's a big-time e-celeb, now there's a big Twitter big shot firing off viral tweets left and right. He gets these kinds of adoring fan base now. I've been left in the dust here. The paparazzi just won't leave him alone, folks. It's about she drilling a hole. Oh my god, it's one of the standard Ghost Rodeo dad jokes. She is just digging a hole for some reason. Krang T. Nelson's pointing out Beijing and the Bellagio. Ocean's 11. Oh my god. Oh my god. Reluctant like on that one. Reluctant like. Every time you encounter someone who uses the term left fascism, it's clear that you shouldn't waste your precious time with them because they don't care about reality. The thing is, like, I do get that there's these, like, kind of these Duganists, or fucking whatever you want to call them, like the MAGA communists, the patriotic socialists. Like they keep rebranding every couple of months, so I never know like what the actual term is. But like I get that there's people out there that are like using these kinds of anti-war arguments to enact some kind of reactionary agenda. But like, just because that exists doesn't mean that I need to support NATO. You know, I'm still, regardless of whether the fact that there's, to me, when there's like dipshit right wingers and these red brown people and like whoever it is, MAGA communists making this argument, all that says to me is that the left should be making the fucking argument and not coming from that reactionary direction. You know, that's all that says to me. And yeah, for sure, Lana, like we talk about that all the time. There are legit attempts to be concerned about attempts at recuperation from the right. We should take that seriously. Absolutely. Like that is a thing that's happening. But again, like I don't think that should stop us from having the correct analysis. Again, that's been, like I've been saying, that's been the failure of the left over the last like year of like being able to articulate that analysis and leaving it to like the Tucker Carlsons and the MAGA communists or whatever it is. And yeah, it's true. A lot of people that I used to trust have gone weird on both sides of that. The pro NATO types and the like the other side of that. Careful now, lest those anons gonna hack you for being a Strasserite. I don't know. I just don't know, folks. I just don't support NATO. You know, that's all. That's all. Like I was saying before, I just don't, no matter what the circumstance is, whether it's Ukraine, whether it's Syria, whether it's Libya, no matter where it's happening, I don't support NATO expanding in the first place, building like having NATO military bases encircling their enemies. I don't support them shipping arms to weird reactionary groups in order to fight civil wars on their behalf and destabilize regimes that they don't like. I'm against that. That's all. I don't think that should be that controversial. Maybe since we talked about this, we can get into some like Ukraine stuff. There's this Mearsheimer clip. Infiltrated by Mearsheimerists. That's right. I mean, anytime someone brings up the Wagner Group, I'm like, yeah, and they're bad too. What do you want from me? Well, that's right. We shouldn't be like empowering them by starting proxy wars that then they can come in and like organize around and participate in. You know, if you don't want these people, if you don't want these fuckers running around, don't fund proxy wars then, and then they won't be involved in those. Yeah, if we were giving them lots of money, I would be against that. That's what I mean. It's like, well, you know, there's fascists in the Russian military. There's Nazi. It's like, but we're not giving them weapons though. That's the difference. That's the big difference. People don't seem to quite understand this. Oh. Let's look at this Mearsheimer thing. There's a Mearsheimer thing from The Spectator from one day ago. There's a longer version. Let's just watch this. We can start with this.
John and Freddie, thanks for joining me. Freddie, you write for the magazine this week about how having a Republican president could change America's position on Ukraine. Under Joe Biden, the U.S. has spent more than $70 billion helping Ukraine. How would a Republican president, and I think more specifically in this piece, a Trump president, change that?
Well, I think Trump's made it very clear what he intends to do. He said that he says three things about it. He says, first of all, if he were president, Putin never would have invaded Ukraine. It's impossible to say whether that's true or not. Secondly, he says Europe's not paying enough.
You know, all the stuff about, talk about these like red brown Strasserites and MAGA communists or whatever that give Trump this kind of credibility when it comes to this stuff. I mean, all that is completely fucking silly to me, considering the fact that no matter what Trump says about Ukraine, Russia wouldn't have invaded if I was there. Oh, I'm going to pull out of Ukraine. The arming of these Ukrainian groups by NATO, that process continued and accelerated under Trump. So I don't understand this tendency to give him this credibility on this, even though he might be willing to like criticize it a little bit more. A little bit. He might be willing to sympathize a little bit more than what you hear in our normal discourse with like Russia's position. But like he continued arming the Ukrainians. So I don't see what evidence there is that he's going to be somehow better on this issue.
America's paying far more than Europe to the war effort, and he'd make the Europeans pay more. And thirdly, he says he would resolve the conflict within 24 hours, within a day of entering the White House. And I think what's quite interesting about this is a lot of hawks on the British side, on the NATO side, and in America on the Republican, hawkish side of the Republican Party, worry that he actually might do that. But to their mind, that would mean making concessions to Russia, rewarding Putin's aggression, as they put it, which would then encourage Putin to be even more aggressive in the future, possibly with other states, the Baltics and so on. And I thought it was interesting and very telling this week that Boris Johnson, who's now become a sort of global cheerleader for the war effort, went to Texas to talk to some rich Texas Republicans and some politicians and to sort of gee them up, to say that you are still backing the right horse. Ukraine's going to win this fight. There's going to be a magnificent counterpunch this summer, and the Russian military will collapse. I suspect a lot of people at lunch believed him. He makes the case very forcefully. The difficulty for the Republican Party is that a lot of their voters, and the polls show this, a lot of their voters are not aligned with that position on Ukraine. And as this election approaches, that's going to come into sharper focus.
Fred, you mentioned there that Trump says things like, if I had been president, Russia would have never invaded. On comments like that, comments that he can end this war in 24 hours, do you think the public buy it?
Well, I think that points towards a golden rule of Republican campaign dynamics now, which is that Trump can say anything and get away with it, and other candidates can't. Right. For instance, Ron DeSantis recently, a few weeks ago, found himself sort of boxed in on the question of Russia, because I think by instinct he's more of a conventional hawk, more of an Atlanticist. But he was pressed by the now sacked Fox News host Tucker Carlson to say, what is America's national interest in fighting Russia on Ukraine, or being involved in the war in Ukraine? And he replied, he said, it's not a vital national security interest for America to be further entangled in Ukraine. And he was much criticized for that in the media, and it didn't result in the Republican base rallying towards him. In fact, if anything, I'm sure there were lots of other factors involved. If anything, his polling has declined since he made that statement. Mm. But Trump can say, I'll resolve it in 24 hours, and he gets away with it because nobody sort of asks him the further questions in the interview. Even on CNN, a hostile interviewer only wanted to ask him, do you want Ukraine to win? And he said, I just want people to stop dying. And the crowd in New Hampshire broke into an ovation. The more sensible question, I think, to ask him would be, how exactly are you going to do that?
Right. Indeed. We'll come back to Florida's governor. He's had a big week. But John, I want to bring you in. You're, of course, known for saying that NATO should take some of the blame for what's happening in Ukraine. But let's pivot specifically to the Republican Party position here. What is the mainstream Republican opinion about Ukraine? And how big is this issue going to be, the issue of the war, in the 2024 election?
I think you have to distinguish between the elites and
this whole like gotcha question for Trump as well, or anyone that questions this, right? Do you want Ukraine to win? Do you want Ukraine to win? Yes or no, sir? Yes or no, sir? Do you want them to win? It's like, again, we've talked about this plenty of times, but it's like, it's this totally irrelevant kind of line of questioning. What does it even look like? Well, the thing is, what it looks like is a fantasy. Like, people are like, do you want, like, you might as well ask, like, do you want the fucking Seattle Supersonics to come back? Yeah, I do. But, like, that's not right now, or anyways, that's not on the verge of happening. There's no possibility of that. So whether I want that to happen or not is completely irrelevant. Maybe when you have these conversations, we should deal more with the actual reality of what's going on rather than this, like, fantasy version. They lost a long time ago. It's an irrational question detached from reality. And like, if you want to know my position as well, and I think most people agree in the chat, I think the war just shouldn't have happened in the first place. I do hope the Sonics will be back. Maybe that was a bad example. But I think the war shouldn't have happened in the first place. And as Mearsheimer himself has pointed out, there was many opportunities to prevent that from happening. There was many off-ramps to prevent the war from happening in the first place, and the United States and NATO ignored these off-ramps every single time until the invasion was successfully provoked. You know? Yeah, so if you want to know my opinion, yeah, I think the war shouldn't have happened in the first place, and then these cities wouldn't be in ruins, and then there wouldn't be so many dead people as a result of it. Yeah, half of these freaks literally think it means destroying and taking over Russia. It's like we can play this like fantasy world game all we want. You know, like I've been saying, it's like we're ending up, the situation's ending up exactly where it could have been in an entire year ago. And all these people have been like, no, we can't allow a Russian victory. No, nothing other than full Ukrainian victory is the only possible path. It's just perpetuated this fucking horror show for an entire year. I'm sorry to hear that, Johnny. Anyway, I think it's such a silly line of questioning. Do you want Ukraine to win? It's like, you know, we're not really advancing anything when we have this discussion.
in the public. And it's very important to understand that what the public thinks here in the United States just doesn't matter very much. The elites just do what they please. There's no question that there are a lot of doubters in the public, both on the Republican side and on the Democratic side. And it's likely that the number of doubters will grow with time. But the question is, how's that going to affect the elite? And the argument that's being made is that the Republicans are beginning to go soft on Ukraine at the elite level, and that if Donald Trump gets elected, there's a really good chance that he'll pull the plug on the Ukrainians. This is not going to happen, in my opinion. The United States is backing Ukraine to the hilt. And if the United States withdraws its support for Ukraine, its material support, Ukraine is going to collapse. It can't stand up to the Russians. The Russians would win a big victory. It's hard for me to imagine that any American leader whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden, is going to allow that to happen. It's just not going to happen. We are too deeply committed.
It's not even the president, but it's like the intelligence agencies and the weapons manufacturers. Can Trump just waltz in there and be like, okay, I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting off all these defense contractors from these unlimited $1 billion weapons transfers that have been going on. I think they're quite happy with that arrangement. So the idea that someone's just going to come in and be like, okay, we're cutting them off. There's going to be some significant internal pushback, to say the least, to anyone that trying to even makes this effort. I had a bunch of Euro types tell me the EU would take over if the USA pieced out. I'm sure Russia's really terrified of the fucking EU.
To this war. There's too much Russophobia in the United States. There's too much talk about the fact that this is an existential threat that we're facing with Russia for us to cut and run and allow Ukraine to go under. Furthermore, just think about what the consequences will be for China. Our credibility, people will argue, will be destroyed if we allow Ukraine to lose. So I think Trump talks a good game. But what he actually does when he's in office, assuming he gets reelected in 2024, is another matter. And I would note here, just as a final point, that Donald Trump, when he ran for president and in his initial few months in the White House, said that he wanted to improve relations with Russia. He viewed Putin as a friend. He wanted to put an end to NATO and get out of Europe. None of that happened. And in fact, what did happen is that in 2017, it was Trump who started arming the Ukrainians. Obama, much to his credit, had the good sense not to arm the Ukrainians. But Trump decided to arm the Ukrainians, and we were as tough on the Russians during the Trump administration as we were in any other administration.
So, I mean, you could argue even tougher. You saw that clip of Klobuchar and John McCain and Lindsey Graham going to Ukraine and meeting with these militia guys and be like, we'll give you whatever you want as long as you keep killing Russians. Now, that happened under Trump. That accelerated drastically under Trump. After there was like the Euromaidan was under Obama, Trump got into place and that whole process accelerated. Zero differentiation between the two administrations. And then the handoff to Biden, and it's been completely coherent. There's a straight line through those foreign policy decisions throughout those three different administrations of different parties.
So Donald Trump can talk all he wants about how he's going to do
a totally delusional
turn regarding American policy on Ukraine. But in my opinion, that's not going to happen if he gets reelected.
You mentioned there that you think more fatigue will set in when it comes to the war in terms of American opinions of it. South Carolina Senator Tim Scott has just launched his presidential campaign with a very different view. He thinks that Joe Biden has not done a great job of explaining to the American people why the interventions have been so substantial in Ukraine, but that there is a case to be made. If you look at polling numbers in the States right now, there's certainly increasing debate between Americans about just how long the U.S. should be supporting Ukraine, a debate between, say, 1 to 2 years and then indefinitely. But there does still seem to be a lot of support, a majority of support for helping Ukraine.
There's no question about that. It's hardly surprising. If you look at how we talk about Russia in the United States and in the West more generally these days, Vladimir Putin is portrayed as the devil incarnate.
Absolutely, Matt. Trump went hard after Russia to push back on Russiagate, which I'm guessing was the desired outcome. Absolutely. Of course, that was the absolute point of all that. And to plant the seeds as well so that in the future, whenever anything, if you want an excuse to go in and take away people's free speech, take away their platform, even lock people up. Now you've laid the groundwork. So people are so paranoid about Russian interference that now you can just say Russia and you can go and do whatever the fuck you want, pretty much. And liberals are going to be thrilled about it. People talk about Trump like they weren't even alive during those years. He wanted peace. He wanted to bring back manufacturing. It's like, or you're just listening to the fucking bullshit Steve Bannon speeches and then completely ignoring the actual reality of what happened. And I even think like Bannon types like actually wanted Trump to engage in that kind of like platform or program, but like he was completely marginalized from day one. Trump immediately brought in a chief of staff, the former head of the RNC. Like if there was a voice within that movement of like the Bannon wing or whatever that wanted him to actually do that shit, they were completely shut out from moment one. Yeah, I mean, even I remember, Matt, like they did the whole, so Obama does the Iran deal, and then to own Trump, and that was Obama's like signature foreign policy achievement. And then to own Trump, they put together this sanctions package on Iran and Russia, which violated the Iran deal that Obama, the fucking Democratic Party golden boy, negotiated. And to own Trump, they put together this sanctions package against Russia and Iran. And Trump's just like, okay, yeah, I'll sign it. Sure. And it's like all these Democrats are like, we owned you by your own logic, as they literally went against their own fucking signature foreign policy achievement. And they were like, we owned the orange man. We forced him to enact these sanctions against Russia. While arbitrarily destroying their own significant foreign policy achievement. It is loser shit.
There's extreme Russophobia in the land, and the Biden administration and the establishment, foreign policy establishments in the West more generally, have done a brilliant job of propagandizing this war. So it's unsurprising that large chunks of the body politic in all these Western countries are committed to seeing Russia defeated.
Do you think it's propaganda
Hello, 10,000
that's
sandwiches.
convincing the American people that they should support Ukraine, or is it the fact that they watch Vladimir Putin march his tanks over the border into Ukraine?
No, it's clearly the propaganda campaign. It's truly amazing the extent to which our discourse here in the West is limited, so that we end up supporting the Ukrainians at every turn and opposing the Russians at every turn. There's hardly anything that's ever said that's positive about the Russian effort, or that's a possible explanation.
Or the idea that they engaged in diplomacy for like years prior to
this war happened. This is a truly outstanding case of extreme propaganda. The only case that
that's why they always, like Chomsky was pointing out as well, that's why they always say the unprovoked invasion. Is it propaganda? Yeah, it is propaganda. When every single time you talk about the invasion on American media, you go the illegal, unprovoked, genocidal. They throw that in there as well. Genocidal, unprovoked invasion. They're saying that for a reason,
Close is what happened in both Britain and in the United States during World War I. You want to remember that in World War I, there was no equivalent of Pearl Harbor or 9/11 that brought us into the war. And as a result, Woodrow Wilson had to go to great lengths to mobilize the American public to back the war. And this was especially true because the two biggest ethnic groups in the United States at that point in time,
you can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you
Irish
through all
Americans.
this.
And
Yellow badge, yellow badge, yellow badge, yellow badge.
Dr. Maggot, thank you very much for the 17 months of Tier 1. Very much appreciated, Dr. Maggot. Thank you for that. You're only a brief 7 months away. That's nothing. You're a minuscule 7 months away from your highly elite, highly exclusive TRRS golden 2-year sub badge. Exactly. History started on February 24th, 22. The Americans are great at that, or in the West in general. We're really great at like completely ignoring every little bit of historical context when it comes to this, when it comes to, World War II, the lead up to that. We love just completely ignoring the years and years of context that lead up to these big seismic events.
And Wilson was deeply fearful that the German Americans would not fight against Germany and the Irish Americans would not fight with Britain. So we launched an amazing propaganda campaign. And I think that since then, there has been no equivalent to that propaganda campaign until recently when Russia invaded Ukraine.
Well, the whole post 9/11 period, I think, was worse. I think if we're going to talk about the thing about Russia Ukraine is that it did remind me of that time, the nonstop propaganda faucet after September 11th in the run up to Iraq, Although you could argue, though, even in the run up to Iraq, there was still, not really in the media, but there was still kind of dissenting viewpoints that were being allowed in certain things. But like now, in this case, it's been completely the opposite. The anti-communist campaign during the Cold War, for sure, yeah. World War II, the war of Sino-Stalinist aggression. That's good. What is Mearsheimer's deal? I mean, he just seems to be like a fairly conservative foreign policy expert, but who just doesn't really pull punches when he talks about American empire and what it's been doing and the potential consequences for the things that it's doing. And he kind of refuses. I think that's one of the reasons that we've enjoyed, or not enjoyed, but like we've gotten something out of watching him break these things down over the last couple of years, is because he doesn't couch his rhetoric about empire in this kind of like, he doesn't pretend that it doesn't exist. He doesn't pretend that these interests don't exist. He gives you a much more clear-eyed view of these conflicts and how they happened. For sure, Moz. It's a curse, isn't it? That's the real red pill. It's the dialectical and historical materialism pill. Then once you take it, you just look around at the way people understand society and history and how completely fucking backwards it is. And how completely detached from reality it is. It's the curse of dialectical materialism.
And we have gone to great lengths
they found
to
me.
portray
the thought police,
the Russians, in the most negative light, and to silence people who might have a somewhat different view. And that would include someone like me, of course.
Freddie, Trump used to get a lot of criticism when he would go and shake hands with these dictators and human rights abusers. And his argument would be, well, look at the results. Don't look at the handshake, look at the results. I am moving America away from this heavy interventionist foreign policy. And he would claim he was successful. Indeed, I think he certainly moved the Democrat Party into a more isolationist point of view. Do you think one of the reasons he's so hesitant to say how he would actually do what he's pledging to do, to bring the war to an end in 24 hours, is because those handshakes would not be feasible now? He would not be able to buddy up to Vladimir Putin in the same way. He would have to take a more hostile approach. And
again, he didn't. He took a hostile approach. She's totally ignoring everything Mearsheimer said.
Very different results than what the president is promising.
She's completely ignored everything Mearsheimer said about he did take a hostile approach. He was actually very hostile. And she's like, no, in this future, he won't be able to be buddy-buddy, and he's going to have to be hostile in the future. It's like, did you fucking listen? Did you listen to one thing? Did you listen to one thing that this guy said? It's like he literally just outlined with specific examples the way Trump did not coddle Russia in any way, or wasn't buddy-buddy with Russia or Putin or whatever. Zero effort to engage with that whatsoever.
I'm not sure. I think Trump's approach is always the sort of real estate approach to foreign policy, which is, you make deals, you take positions, you deceive people with your positions if you have to. And I think where Trump is effective as a campaigner is that he often says things that Americans think, but no one in the public eye or no one in the elites, if you like, will say. So there's a famous moment when he was asked about foreign authoritarian governments doing terrible things, and he said, "Do you think we're so innocent?"
As we've pointed out many times, the most true thing that Trump ever said, and I'm interested to hear this diagnosis from this fucking dipshit about how that was wrong and bad for him to say that. The most true thing that Trump ever said. You think we're so innocent? We got a lot of killers. Do
you think we're so innocent? And this was taken as a sort of very anti-American statement. But actually, I think a lot of Americans know that their government has done terrible things in the world, and they're quite honest about that. So I think he has a rhetorical ability with it. His deal-making ability as a statesman is, I think, as John suggests, much exaggerated. But the fact that he would be willing to talk to Vladimir Putin and is willing to say that he would be willing to talk to Vladimir Putin does make him a different type of politician to a lot of the other candidates.
Freddie, this week, Florida's Governor Ron DeSantis has launched his presidential campaign on Twitter. And if anyone's going to be a challenger to Trump, it is thought at the moment anyway that Ron DeSantis will be that person. Even if we just break this down into name recognition, some of the other candidates running don't come close. Would his policy towards Ukraine be much different from Donald Trump's?
Well, no. His recent statements on it suggest that no, it wouldn't. But he'd certainly talk about it more in the language of international statesmanship. He wouldn't be saying, "I'll just make a deal with Putin," and because I know his strengths and weaknesses, and I know Zelensky's strengths and weaknesses, and so I'll fix it. He'll talk more about international interests and the national interest. And I think so far it looks as though he knows that the conservative base that he wants to rally are much more skeptical about what America's doing in Ukraine than the rest of the population. And so I think for now he's tilting towards Trump. Tim Scott, on the other hand, is tilting towards the more hawkish position and talking about it being a national interest to degrade Russia's military so that it can avoid an attack on UK sovereign land. I think that's an odd position, and I think a lot of Americans will think it's an odd position because they'll think, well, how is Russia really threatening?
Of course, DeSicco would back whatever the fuck his strategy is.
Is not the war that is currently being conducted.
Yeah, DeSantis is really going to stand up to
the only feasible,
the CIA and NATO. Yeah, right.
On America from Russia, which is a nuclear one, which of course would be the end of the world.
John,
could I quickly just respond to something that Freddie said? I think he's exactly right that Trump views himself as a deal maker, and he thinks that he can move in here and he can talk to Putin, he can talk to Zelensky, he can use pressure on Zelensky, and he can cut a deal. The problem that Trump faces is not simply that there would be resistance from the rest of the establishment if he tried to do that. The real problem is there's no deal to be had here, right? Nobody can figure out what the solution is to shutting this conflict down. And there are two reasons for that. One is the territorial issue. The Russians are not going to give back the territory they've conquered.
This is the realism that we're talking about.
The Ukrainians want that territory back, and you can't square that circle.
It's not happening.
Furthermore, the Russians want Ukraine to be a neutral state, and Ukraine wants a security guarantee, and that can only come from the West, and you can't square that circle. So there is no deal to be had. So, there's all this talk these days about using the Chinese as a force or as a moderator to work out some sort of deal. That's not a viable argument because, again, it has nothing to do with the Chinese. It's the fact that there's no deal to be had. So Trump can talk till he's blue in the face about cutting a deal, but there's no deal to be had.
But he would, and John, obviously you're the great expert on international relations, so I defer to you on this, but he would have leverage. I mean, Americans' power is unrivaled. He would have significant leverage over Ukraine because of the support that America has provided Ukraine, and he would have significant leverage over Russia because of the threat that America can pose to Russia and the fact that the war has not been going according to Russia's plan so far.
I think you're absolutely right that he would have significant leverage over the Ukrainians. Not total leverage, but significant leverage. But I don't believe he'd have any leverage over the Russians. The Russians don't trust the Americans, whether it's Trump or Biden, as far as they can throw them. And the Russians have a deep-seated interest in taking as much of Ukraine as they can and turning the remaining part of Ukraine into a dysfunctional rump state. And promises from Donald Trump that they'll work out some sort of meaningful deal and therefore the Russians can make concessions is not going to wash. The Russians no longer trust us, and they shouldn't trust us.
No, they shouldn't.
There's also a question about what would happen to President Zelensky if he did come to the table and walked away with a
Not
deal
an option.
that your average Ukrainian
The right sector types and the Azov types are not going to be too happy about that.
And bring in somebody else. It strikes me that there's no guarantee that either side, frankly, would necessarily declare this war over, even if President Trump did.
I agree with that. And I think it's not your average Ukrainian, it's the ultra-right in Ukraine. There has long been a powerful ultra-right, a nationalist right in Ukraine that wants to make no concessions to the Russians and is heavily into de-Russification of Ukraine. And those
it's not a good position to be in.
would be very hard to get on board. And Zelensky's had his problems since he was elected dealing with those people. So I agree completely with what you say.
Your average Ukrainian, of course, has also been out there fighting. I mean, clearly there is still support amongst the country for trying to defend.
They don't have a choice.
But Freddie, my last question to you is:
if
Trump were to become president and he were to implement his agenda, I think we've established a lot of question marks over that agenda. What would other Western countries be able to do? Would they be able to keep supporting Ukraine? Would they be able to do this without the United States?
I mean, I think a second Trump presidency would be a graver threat to NATO than the first presidency was. There was a lot of, fear about NATO being Trump was going to tear NATO apart and so on because he didn't really see the point.
Which is why they hated him so much.
In his first term, he just was agitating for other states to contribute more money. He didn't want America to pay so much. I think in a second term, with this situation in Ukraine, with all the pressures going on, I think it would be a graver threat to NATO. I don't make any moral judgments whether that's a good or bad thing. I just think that would be the dynamic.
The jaunty piano score. Keep going back here, Jesus. The jaunty piano score is a pretty funny contrast with the subject matter. Tickling the old ivories. That's right. The speakeasy. It's the saloon style. Well, kind of interesting, and again, that's why I do appreciate Mearsheimer's commentary. And again, I think we can and should criticize someone like that. He is kind of a ghoul, but I like his honesty. I like that he's willing to say things that people in the establishment don't want him to say, and I appreciate the analysis, even if he is a ghoul. It is kind of sadly rare. It is. Oh, what now? What now? Still icing my arm. My arm is still not back to normal. It's made progress, but it's still not back to normal. I should probably take a brief pause. For a moment, folks. I'm going to be here for another hour or so. 40, 50 minutes. I will take a little brief pause right now just to stand up and maybe not sit in my chair, which obviously I've been doing too much. Folks, I injured myself from sitting in my chair too much.
You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Bleep Lord, thank you so much. Converted the Prime sub to a Tier 1 sub. Thank you, Bleep Lord. I appreciate that. Thank you for that. And again, if anyone wants to support TRRS and support the work that I do here on Twitch and support me because it's almost my birthday, you can subscribe to TRRS. It costs $5 per month. There's this lady online that's accusing me of taking Goldman Sachs money because I talked to VJ Prashad. They think I'm part of this elaborate Goldman Sachs funded red brown Duganist network. But unfortunately, I'm not. I don't get any of the tricontinental money. I get nothing from Goldman Sachs. I get nothing from the Russian government. I get nothing from the Chinese government. I'm exclusively funded by the folks in this chat and in this community that appreciate the work that I do here on Twitch. Maybe some of them are with Goldman Sachs or with these other governments. I don't know. If they are, I don't know about it. I'll tell you that much. I'd be happy with the new funding cut, man, if that was true. Yeah. I would be perfectly happy with that. But no, I'm not part of this funding network that apparently this gravy train that other fortunate folks are on. I'm funded entirely by the listeners and viewers of this program. So, folks, if you do enjoy TRRS and you want to support the work that I do here and you want to give me a little gift because it's almost my birthday, you can do so by subscribing to TRRS. It's $5 per month. It is completely free of charge with an Amazon Prime account. You can gift subs or friend coin, or there's plenty of tips. There's plenty of other ways for people to contribute. Every little bit helps keep this show on the air, and it allows me to continue focusing on doing this show, which I absolutely love to do each and every day. Did you know that money came from a bank? I know. It's scary. Is it okay if we send you money from our banking accounts? I know it's very alarming.
You've just become an elite member of the Friendship Triangle.
Gen X Bushy, thank you so much. You've been so supportive of me and the community. Gen X Bushy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the 5 gifted subs. Very, very generous. Thank you so much, Gen X Bushy.
You can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
And Frankster as well. Oh, GMO Radio. Thank you for you gifting a sub to Frankster Says. GMO Radio, thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Do any other kind and generous chatters want to? I know this. I'm not exactly crushing it in viewers today, so I know I have limited ability to do this. But do any other kind of generous chatters want to support the work that I do here on Twitch? Before I take a little break, I mean, look at this look. You're gonna not sub to this guy, really? You
can count on me. You're going to have good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Really? You're really not gonna sub to this guy? Oh. G Cluppy obviously doing that emote
You
to
can count
the
on me.
Avatar
You're gonna have a good
shirt,
old Rob
of course.
to talk you through all this.
Pinot Noir Superstar, thank you so much
You can
for
count
the 8
on me.
months of
You're
Tier
gonna have
1.
a good old Rob to talk you through all this.
Thank you, Pinot Noir Superstar. Pinot Noir is the only kind of wine that I know. That shirt rocks so much. I was going to ask you where you got it. I got it from Etsy. Actually, Jordan Ewell sent me this shirt on Etsy, and he was like, you got to get this. And I was like, yes, I do. And I did. Show thigh and get sub. Thank you very much, Sikaloo Fakis, for the gifted sub. Very, very much appreciated. Thank you. And thank you, Diego, as well, for the gifted sub. Diego, you've supported this channel so much. I know I say this every fucking day, but thank you. I really, really appreciate it. I really, really do. Thank you. Yeah, Pinot Noir, it's the only kind of wine that I know. I also know I'm not drinking any fucking Merlot. Exactly. Just I have my entire opinion informed by Sideways. It's just when I'm picking up a wine, it's like, oh, I'll get a nice Pinot Noir. And that always impresses people. Breakthrough is a new video about Petro that looks good. Yeah, this must be very interesting. I probably don't have time to get with it today, but this seems very interesting, though. Not surprising that the government, the more left-wing government of Colombia, for the first time, is now under total assault. Not at all surprising. Folks, we got level 3 of this hype train going on. We got level 3 of a hype train. Let me see if I can just get a... I've been enjoying this vibe lately. That's all, folks. It's just a warm summer day. Cultivating a little friendly vibe here. Ow, fuck. We are